Today we're checking out the Teraflex HD Forged Drag Link and HD Chromoly tie rod kit for the 0 to 6 inch lifted 2018 and newer Jeep Wrangler JLs. If you want to tighten up the steering on your Jeep and step into a much stronger option than stock, this is the kind of upgrade that can make a serious difference. This is going to be built for the Wrangler owner who wants more precision and more confidence out of the front end, especially once bigger tires and lift height come into the picture. This kit is all about improving steering stability and control. It uses a heavy-duty drag link and tie rod setup that is almost double the stiffness of OEM tie rods, which is exactly the kind of thing that helps the Jeep feel more planted and more precise. This is engineered to work with 0 to 6 inches of lift and compatible with stock knuckles and 17 inches or larger wheels. So it's a really practical fit for a lot of lifted JL builds. One nice feature here is that the tie rod end rotation is limited to 2 degrees, which is there to help get rid of wobble and keep the steering more controlled. The adjustable tie rod end preload is another nice feature because it supports long-term durability and helps this kit feel like a much more serious steering solution than a basic stock replacement. For someone who wants a stronger and more confidence-inspiring front steering setup, this is exactly the kind of part that starts making the Jeep feel more dialed in. When it comes to the construction on this, you are getting a heavy-duty 1 5/8 inch diameter made of 4140 heat-treated chromoly steel. It's also greasable, magnesium phosphate treated, and finished in a black E-dipped coating, so the kit is built not just for strength, but also for long-term corrosion resistance, so you know it's gonna last you the long haul. That is the kind of construction that you're really gonna want from a steering part that's gonna deal with daily use, trail abuse, and bigger tires constantly. As far as the pricing goes on this, it's coming in right in the low 1000s price range. That definitely puts it into the premium category, but it's commanded by a premium product. It's gonna make a lot of sense because you're getting a full heavy-duty drag link and tie rod kit built from that heat-treated chromoly steel and aimed at serious steering improvement instead of just a basic stock replacement. When it comes to the install on this one, it's gonna get rated a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. You can have this job done in 1 hour of your time if everything goes smooth. So let's head on out to the shop. We're gonna give you a detailed walkthrough of exactly how this install process goes.
For this install, you will need a grease gun, various impacts, a ratchet strap, a ball joint service tool, a 1/4 inch ratchet, creates a 1/2 inch adapter if necessary, swivel adapter, an extension, 5 and 6 millimeter Allen sockets, 7, 13, 16, 18, 21 millimeter sockets, 10 millimeter wrench, 19 and 21 millimeter ratcheting wrenches, a clip removal tool, and various large adjustable wrenches. Also not shown here is a jack and jack stands. All right, today we're gonna be installing a drag link and tie rod kit on our Wrangler, so let's get started. All right, so we've got the vehicle lifted in the air. We do have the wheels off and they are centered straight. What we're gonna do first is remove this front splash guard so we can better access our drag link and tie rod. It's held in by 2 7 millimeter screws at the bottom, which we no longer have due to many previous installs, and various push clips along the top side. So for those push clips, we're gonna grab our clip removal tool and remove those. So we'll pop our clips out. These are a little bit hard to get to. You're gonna have to work them out slowly. Once you got your first couple out, you can do the same thing with the rest of your clips, and we'll remove our splash guard. All right, so now that we have all of our clips removed, we're gonna pull our splash guard off. We'll set this aside. Now we're gonna remove our inner bracket for our splash guard. Now this is not 100% necessary to remove for this install. However, this is gonna give you the best view of what's going on and make things a little bit easier to reach. So this is held in by 2 16 millimeter bolts. So we've got our 16 mil socket on our ratchet. We'll get those 2 off and get this out of the way. All right, next we're gonna remove our steering stabilizer that's held in by an 18 millimeter bolt on the differential side and an 18 millimeter nut on your tie rod side. So we got our 18 millimeter socket on our impact and we'll get those off. Next, we can pop our stabilizer out, and we'll set this aside for now. All right, so now we're gonna remove our tie rod assembly. So we're gonna loosen up the 21mm nuts on both sides at the ball joints. We're not gonna fully remove them because we do need to unseat the ball joints themselves, and that nut being on there a little bit is gonna help catch it once it unseats. So we've got our 21mm socket on our impact, and we'll loosen these up. Now sometimes the shaft on these ball joints like to spin with the lock nut. It has a pretty good grip on there, so if that's the case, I'm gonna grab a 21mm ratchet wrench and a 10mm wrench. We're gonna get our 21 onto our nut, and then our 10mm onto our shaft. And we can hold that and loosen this up. Now, as you can see, we did get lucky and our ball joint just kind of unseated itself. However, most times that's not going to be the case. So what you want to do is grab a ball joint service tool and use that to pop this off. Or if you don't have that, you can grab a hammer and give a few light taps on the knuckle, although the ball joint tool is the best option. So now that we've got this side loose, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll get our tie rod out. All right, so now we're going to support our tie rod and fully remove our nuts. You can let that first side kind of fall, but you definitely want to keep a hand on it. Now we'll go over and get our other nut off and remove our tie rod. Now we're going to begin removing our drag link itself. So what we're going to do is, again, just like our tie rod, loosen up our 21mm nut over here at our ball joint, and then we'll do the same thing over on our pitman arm. So we're going to start off again with our 21mm ratchet wrench and 10mm wrench and get this loose. Now we can loosen up our pitman arm side. So again, with our 21mm ratcheting wrench, we'll get that nut off. Now you want to do your best to make sure your steering stays centered. You can hold this, loosen it up. And now we've got that loose. Now we need to unseat this ball joint. Now, in order to gain better access to the ball joint on the pitman arm so we don't have to drop our sway bar or anything like that, what we're gonna do is since this side is already loose, or if you have unseated it, we're gonna remove this side of our ball joint and then spin our drag link out so that we can better access our ball joint up there and use our ball joint service tool to pop that out. Drop this down and turn it. Now we have nice, easy access. All right, so now we've got our ball joint service tool set up. Now there are several different styles of these. This one is the best for this application because it is kind of a low profile up top. What we're gonna do is use our 19mm socket to run our anvil down and pop our ball joint out. Again, remember, we do still have the nut loosely on this stud for the ball joint, so it'll catch it when it drops. Now we'll support our drag link, remove our nut, and get this out. Next, we're going to remove our factory stabilizer bracket that is on our differential, because we're going to be using one that comes with your kit that mounts onto your new tie rod. So this is held in by 3 13mm bolts. So we've got our 13mm socket. We'll get those off and remove our bracket. All right, so now we've got our factory drag link and our new drag link up on the table. So you want to make sure you reference your factory drag link to set these at the same length. You can adjust these once they're on the vehicle, but you want to start at the factory setting. So you just want to start by lining your ball joints up on one end. Make sure the other end lines up, and you should be good to go. Usually these come out of the box at the factory setting. It's always good to double check. The other thing we're going to do before we install this is install our ball joint boot retainers at the base of our ball joint. So we'll get this wrapped over now and get it in place. So we'll get these over. Put these into their slots. Once you have your first one on, you can do the same thing for the other side. All right, so now we're going to install our drag link. We've got our 2 provided flange nuts. We'll get this into the knuckle and the pitman arm and get our nuts in place. All right, so now we're going to tighten down our pitman arm side first with our 21 mil ratchet wrench. All right, so once you get to a certain point tightening these lock nuts down, they are going to start spinning the shaft just like our factory ones coming out. So what we're going to need is a 6mm Allen socket on our ratchet along with our 21mm ratcheting wrench. Now we'll tighten down this side the same way. Now once you have these tightened down, you want to grab your grease gun. The fittings are on bottom of the ball joints. We'll lock that in. Give that a few pumps. Now we're going to install our cap for our grease fitting. And once you have this first one greased and capped off, you can do the same thing for the rest of your ball joints, including our tie rod once we install that. Next, we're going to need to remove our factory track bar bolt at our lower axle mount, as we're going to be installing our mounting point for our stabilizer to that. So we've got our 21 mil swivel socket and extension, and we're going to remove that now. All right, so now we're going to install our new mounting stud on our track bar where our factory bolt came out. Now, we will need to shift our differential back over because this did move slightly, which is totally normal once you take that bolt out. What we're going to do, you have a couple options here. If you want to install your tie rod first, get this on the ground and then do it, you can use the steering to move around your differential and get it lined up. However, if you want to keep it up in the air, you can grab yourself a ratchet strap and we'll just put a little tension on it and pull our differential back over. It's not far off, so we're going to grab this, hook it up to our diff and our chassis, get it over and get our new stud installed. All right, so now we have our stud through into our mounting point, and we're going to get our factory flag nut on the back side of that. We'll hold this on. And if you can turn this by hand, cool. Most times not, so we'll grab our 21 mil ratchet wrench. We'll slowly get this started. And once that catches, your flag nut will hold itself in place. Now we can release our ratchet strap and ease the tension on that. All right, so now we've got our factory tie rod up on the table and our new one. We're gonna assemble this on the table, and just like with our drag link, we're gonna get this set to the factory settings. Again, you can adjust this with an alignment or whatever you need for your specific application. Afterwards, it's always good to go baseline at the stock height. So we're gonna get both of our outer tie rods into our inner tie rod, and then we'll get this onto the vehicle. Now your driver's side is gonna be reverse thread. Just keep that in mind. We'll get this threaded in. Once we're a good way in, we'll install the other side. All right, so now just like with your drag link ball joints, you want to make sure you get your boot retainers on before we install this. Again, they just wrap over and sit into their slot. We've got our supplied flange locking nuts. we'll get this in place. Now we're going to tighten these down once again using our 6mm Allen head socket and our 21mm wrench. Once you have this side tight, you can repeat the same process for the other side, and then you can grease your ball joints just like we did with our drag link and install your covers. All right, so now we're going to tighten down our retainer nuts for our tie rods. So we've got our couple of adjustable wrenches here. Get one onto our main shaft, one onto our nut. Tighten that down, and you can do the same thing for the other side. All right, so now we're going to reinstall our steering stabilizer. We're going to get it onto our new mounting point that we installed previously. One thing to note is if you are using your factory stabilizer, the side that mounted to your factory tie rod has a larger and smaller side for an opening. You want that larger side to face inward towards the stud, and then our smaller side is going to face out where our nut's going to land. So we'll get this on. We'll install our provided nut, just loosely for now. All right, so now we're going to get our new mounting bracket onto our tie rod for our stabilizer. It is 2 pieces. You want the main mounting hole for the stud that's going to go on it to be facing up. We'll get this on. We'll get our 4 Allen head screws in place. Now that we've got these loosely in position, we'll slide it down closer to our stabilizer. All right, so now we're going to install our mounting stud. Thread right into the top. All right, so now what we're going to do before we tighten anything down, we're going to kind of set it in place. Line up our stud with our stabilizer. Get that on. Now you want your stabilizer to be about midway through its throw. So when we took ours off, our steering was centered and it did not move, so that's nice. It's going to be about 5.5 inches from the diff case if you need to measure that. And what we'll do is grab our 21mm wrench, snug down our stud so it doesn't move. So now we've got our stabilizer and our bracket resting in its natural position. We're going to install our provided nut loosely onto this stud. Then we're going to tighten down our Allen head screws holding our bracket on with our 5mm Allen socket. Now we're going to use our 19mm ratchet wrench to tighten these 2 nuts down. Then we'll tighten down our other nut as well. Now we're going to install our 2 set screws for the bottom of our stabilizer bracket. Get these started. And tighten those down with our 5mm Allen socket. Now once you've reached this point, you want to make sure you torque all of your hardware down to the manufacturer's recommended specifications. Also, I do highly recommend an alignment after installing this. And you can put on your inner bracket and your splash guard. All right, so now we're going to reinstall our inner bracket. This just hooks into place. So we can reinstall our 16mm bolts. And we'll grab our 16mm socket and tighten these down. So now we'll get our splash guard back into place and reinstall our push clips for our upper mounting portion. Once you get your first couple in, you can do the same thing for the rest of your clips. And then again, we are missing our 7mm screws at the bottom, but you want to reinstall those at home as well. Alrighty, that about wraps up our review and install of our Teraflex HD Forged Drag Link and HD Chromoly tie rod kit for a 0 to 6 inch lift on your 18 to current Jeep Wrangler JL. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Wrangler, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.